All right, folks, here we go. This is your first look at Infiniti's refreshed QX50. If you don't know what I'm talking about, because you don't understand the Q terminology, it's the EX35. It's got a revised front end, it's got a revised rear end, it's got a little bit of changes going on in the interior, and you know, it's not bad. It looks a little bit better than it used to. The big news though is that it's a little bit longer. So if you ever tried to sit in the back seat of one of these before, you knew it was pretty much impossible, especially if someone like me was sitting in the front seat. Now though, they've added over 4 inches of rear seat legroom. That's a lot. That means you can actually sit back there. I could sit behind me. That's pretty good. One of the hallmarks of the QX50, and why it's a vehicle that you should consider, because I know you watching this love to drive, is that this is kind of one of the driver's cars in the luxury compact crossover segment. You know, the BMW might be all right to drive. The Acura is going to be all right to drive, but none of them are going to be as fun as this one, because this one is front engine rear wheel drive. Now, so you can do stuff like that. You can make little tire screechy noises and have some fun and jump on it. The steering's actually pretty solid. Let's just fling it into this corner here. Now, we spent the earlier part of the morning driving the rear wheel drive version, which if you turn traction control off, it'll actually give you a little bit of slip before it catches and, you know, hauls the fun back in. You can't fully defeat the system, but you can have fun. So that's good. We like to have fun. Now we're in the all-wheel drive version, and it's a rear-biased all-wheel drive system, which is also good. So if you live in an area where it gets crap weather, unlike where we are in Southern California, you might opt for this one. And the price difference really isn't that much. It's only a few $1,000s more to get all-wheel drive. In normal driving, it's 100% of the power to the rear, and then when it needs to, it can send up to 50% to the front wheels. So, you know, it's still sporty focused even in the all-wheel drive version. I prefer the rear-wheel drive version just because I like driving rear-wheel drive vehicles. Not that it's, you know, a drift monster or anything like that, but it's a little bit more sporty feeling in the canyons. Now, we've been hauling ass up and down the canyon roads of Southern California around the Julian area. And if you know that area, you know, 1, there's tons of pie, which is why my belly's sticking out further than usual. But 2, the roads are effing spectacular. It is a great place to drive a car. If you're a fan of Infiniti things in general, you might notice what we're dealing with here. If you've seen the badge on the outside, that says 3.7. It's a 3.7 liter V6 engine like you would find in the Q50 sedan and a few other products. Here, it's making 325 horsepower, which is way tops in the side of the class. And it's also making 267 pound-feet of torque, and it's paired with an automatic gearbox. There are no paddles. We do wish there were paddles, but there is a sport mode, and you can leave it in sport mode and let it do its own thing, which it'll hold gears a little bit longer in corners and stuff like that, and downshift more aggressively if you come braking into a corner, or you can shift it yourself. Earlier today, I found that it was kind of better to just let it do its own thing, or it was slow to shift if you tried to do it manually. Occasionally, leaving it to its own device, leaving the device to its own device, it would occasionally get confused in corners. Where's the throttle? Where should I be? What gear? But for the most part, it handled the corners quite well. The steering is pretty solid for a vehicle like this. I thought they might go with an electronic power steering system, but we've got hydraulic, so you actually do get some feel. On a chattery part of the road, I could feel it through the wheel, so that feedback is something that we like to see, especially in a vehicle that bills itself as being sporty. So more good news about this vehicle, really good news if you are considering getting one, is the price. These QX50s start around $34,000, $35,000 depending on if you want rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. Add in some options, like there's one package they offer is the premium package. It's $500. They're basically doing it so that they know you're gonna get it, but by not having it as a standard feature, they can advertise a lower price. It's not that big a deal because it's only $500, but it's more of a marketing thing. So it's priced wonderfully well. And it's nice, the soft touch materials in the dash, the seats are comfortable. There's wood or wood look here in the center. It's a dark wood. It looks good. There's got leather on the shift boot. The steering wheel, Infiniti does a good job with their steering wheels. They do a good job with their seats. So the packaging in here is solid. Now, you're gonna have to spend more money if you want the nav and the 11-speaker Bose system, but not a ton. I think as equipped, this one's running about $43,000, and this is a fully loaded car. So you get everything for just over 40. And in the luxury space, that's not a lot of money. How good is that price? Well, if you compare it to the Acura RDX, you're spending $2,000 to $4,000 less. If you compare it to a Lexus NX, you're spending between $4,000 and $7,000 less. And you're getting a car that's more fun to drive than both of those. The chassis is nicely sorted. It meters out bumps well, but it's stiff enough to retain that sporting quality that if there's big bumps in the road, you're gonna feel them. You know, you'll wallow over them a little bit. It doesn't soak it up like something, say, a Cadillac with magnetic ride would. But further along with the chassis, you have the communicative steering, and surprisingly, an area we thought we might be let down, the brakes. They haul in speed nicely. I haven't noticed any real fading as the day's going on. Again, we're not tracking it, but we were railing on it pretty good in the canyons earlier when our cameras might not have been working. So how'd they sort that out so well? Well, you got independent front suspension up front, and out back you got a multi-link setup. So combine those two, boom, sporty driving experience. Whee! And the engine roars a little bit. You know, it's not the most amazing sounding engine in the world, but it does make noise and it's not terrible. How's that? Now, this isn't an all-new vehicle. If you've stepped foot in any Infiniti in the last, it feels like 8 years, this will look pretty familiar to you. The infotainment screen is easy to read. All the buttons are familiar. It all works well. There's nothing groundbreaking here. It's just, it's perfectly adequate. We'd like to see a little bit more innovation going forward down the road as you have other automakers offering, you know, much more interesting systems going on, but for now, it works. One of Infiniti's hallmarks, though, is a combination of their around view monitor system and then what they're doing with their safety features. You've got distance control on the cruise control. It also will alert you if you're leaving your lane, but when the cruise control system is activated, it'll also prevent you from leaving that lane by giving you an assist by braking the wheels on the opposite side of the lane that you're about to cross. So when you have this system fully active, it's a pretty safe system, which is good because you almost tested it because that Corolla almost just pulled out in front of us. But once you start hustling this thing, I mean, it responds well. It picks up, it downshifts, it grabs the gear you'd rather be in. I'm not even in sport for that. Now I am. So it's subtle changes to bring the vehicle more in line. Down the road, this will need a total overhaul. And it will get it. Infiniti knows it. But for now, the changes are good. The prices dropped a little bit over the outgoing model, while the value has improved because they offer more stuff at lower prices. So the big story here for the QX50 is subtle styling changes, but most of all, it's an improved value over the outgoing vehicle and more legroom. That's important. It is fun to drive though, believe it or not. Which way are we going?
Left and now up hot.
Okay. What's after that?
Then, very short after that, it's right on Paseo Delicious. Delicious?
Delicious.
Paseo.
This paseo's delicious.
Oh
This
God.
paseo's
Bro,
delicious.
Bro, this paseo is so good.
Oh, it's delicious. It's goddamn delicious. All right. God, that 4 Series GT just went by. That thing is gross.
Yep.
They need that chick from Game of Thrones. Shame! Shame! So when you have this system fully active, it's a pretty safe system, which is good because you almost tested it because that Corolla almost just pulled out in front of us. My balls are in my throat.
Corolla.
You want to test an offset impact on the passenger side?
I'd rather not, Jeff. Thank you. Though.
Yeah.